friend Robert O'Brien. Robert, thanks for doing this. President Trump is saying that probably we've already won the war. He's basically saying the war's over. But he's wondering out loud, and I'll get your take on this, can you find somebody or a group to build a new country, to build a new Iran? The war's probably over, missions are met, but what about the future kind of country Iran's going to be? What will happen here? What's the end game? How do you see it, Robert?
Well, Larry, thank you for having me on. The president was very clear about his aims. Number one, take out the nuclear program. Number two, take out the ballistic missile program. Number three, stop the Iranian support of proxies in the region, terrorists in the region. He's done all those three things. The military campaign has been exquisite, and they've really destroyed Iran. It would be nice to have a regime change, because in a regime change, they're not going to go back to doing this all over again. And so I think the president would like to have a new government in Iran. He'd like to have someone he can deal with. But he is correct. He said it from the start. He said it with the negotiations when Witkoff went to Geneva. This is what we want. He said, if you don't give it to me in the negotiations, I'm going to take it. And he's done so. So it's been an incredibly sophisticated and well planned out military campaign, air and naval bombardment of Iran.
So let's go back to this. The war aims have basically been met. They're taking out the remaining drones, the missile launchers. They do have to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Robert, correct me if I'm wrong, but when this mullah, baby mullah, junior mullah, I don't even know if there is such a, he could be dead for all we know. The Revolutionary Guard put him in there. His own father didn't want him, but whatever. Okay, so he's saying officially, formally, they are closing the Strait of Hormuz. Now, that's quite unusual. We looked back in prior Middle East conflicts, and they never really went quite that far. Be that as it may, obviously world markets want to reopen it. So the president's going to try to reopen it. The Fifth Fleet, as Aaron Cohn so colorfully said last night, the Fifth Fleet knows all about Hormuz, okay? The question is, when do you suppose they'll come in and actually reopen it?
Well, Larry, that's a really good point. And the Strait of Hormuz is going to reopen for two primary reasons. Number one, we've taken out the capability of the Iranians to close the strait. They were going to do that with mines, sea mines, and they were going to seed the mines with their aircraft and with their Navy. The aircraft and Navy are gone now, so they can't mine it. They can use some drones, but we're dismantling the last of their drones now. So they're not going to have the capability to close this strait, and the Fifth Fleet will be more than capable of escorting tankers through there. But there's another reason. Karg Island is where is in the strait, and that's where all the Iranian oil gets exported from, to China, to East Asia. All the Iranian oil goes through Karg Island. The president has not destroyed Karg Island, which normally we would have done if we wanted to destroy the country, because he thinks that there may be a new government in Iran, and he doesn't want to hurt the Iranian people. He wants them to be able to export their oil and rebuild their economy and rebuild their country. And it's also a little sop to Xi Jinping, who he's going to go meet with in 2 weeks, saying, gee, I'm going to let you keep buying oil, just not at a discount. So incredibly nuanced, incredibly sophisticated geopolitics are going on here.
So basically, he is destroying, CENTCOM is destroying the manufacturing base of Iran. But you're saying so far, and perhaps the president will leave Karg Island, which is the main export depot. He's going to leave that alone in the hope that somehow somebody emerges to run that country and rebuild it, and end its awful history of terrorism and shooting Americans and so forth and so on. So basically, you're saying Karg Island, maybe that's in play right now. Maybe that's part of the backdoor discussions. What do you think of that?
No, I think you're right, Larry. If the current government remains in place, I think they're going to take out Karg Island. If there's a new government or the people can take over, or it looks like they might at some point, I think he'll leave Karg Island alone and give the people a chance to have revenue to rebuild their country. But if the Ayatollahs and the mullahs stay in place, we'll shut down Karg Island on the way out of town.
Do we have any idea? This is perhaps unanswerable, but I'm deliberately making fun of this baby Ayatollah. I mean, his father didn't want him. The Revolutionary Guard put him in there. The guy's been injured. We don't know if he's alive or not. His family was killed in the early bombings. We don't know anything about that. You think right now there are back-channel discussions going on between the United States and somebody in the Iranian government? Somebody? Is it possible? You don't hear anything about that. The president's not saying anything at the moment. How do you read that one?
Well, look, we're certainly talking to Iranians on a regular basis, to the Kurds, to the opposition leaders, to the Crown Prince, the Shah's son, Pahlavi. But are we talking to people inside Iran? My guess is yes, and my guess is that there are Revolutionary Guards and Iranian regular military people who know that they've lost the war, who know that they've got to have, if they want a future for their country and that they love their country, that they've got to work with President Trump. And my guess is that John Radcliffe has Iran full of CIA agents, and the Israelis have a bunch of Mossad agents, and I'm sure they're having lots of conversations in the dark corners.
Conversations in dark corners. I love that. I'm sure you're right. You know a thing about that. Former National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien, thank you ever so much for helping us today. We appreciate it. We'll talk soon.